Yo, what's going on, family? What it do? Listen, I want to welcome y'all to another episode of Friday Night Live with me, Pastor Frank. As always, I don't know about you, but I'm always grateful. I'm always glad that God saw us through to the end of yet another week. Is anybody grateful? If anybody grateful, do me a favor. Just drop a line in the comments just saying, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. Because guess what? There's so many, I say it week after week, time after time. There's so many people that thought they would see today. They thought that they had another chance to get things right? And they didn't make it. But for whatever reason, God saw fit to wake you and me up to allow us to see a brand new day, a day we've never seen before. And I'm always grateful. What's up, Nidra? I'm always grateful. And I just want to remind us, you all, we should never take for granted anytime that we wake up, right? Anytime that God allows us to breathe the breath in our body, we should never take that for granted because if it wasn't for the grace of God, there would go you and me, right? But as always, listen, I want to welcome you all to this second episode of the Love Talk series. I'm so excited. What's up, Red? My brother, what's going on? Listen, this is our second episode of the Love Talks series. Do me a favor, go ahead and share this video with some other people because I believe that there's some other people that need to hear what we're talking about. They need to be in on the conversation as we're having these love talks, right? One of the most common things that all of us struggle with in some way, shape, form, or fashion is usually has something to do with love. And so yeah, go do me a favor, go ahead and hit that share button, share this, send a text out to somebody, tell somebody that we live, we're on the air. But also, if you have not subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, and then make sure you hit the little notification bell. That way, whenever I go live or I post something, you'll get the email alert letting you know, hey, Frank Maurice Unfiltered just posted something. Frank Maurice Unfiltered just went live, or whatever the case may be. But I make sure that we stay connected. Is that all right? All right. And not to mention you all, I know that some of us we ready to get this weekend going because this is the second day of spring. I know the first day of spring didn't really feel very springy because we had snow here in Chicago, but spring has sprung, right? And so that means we're supposed to be turning the corner as it pertains to weather. But we do live in Chicago, and so Chicago weather is known to be bipolar. Nevertheless, God is still good, and we still working on dreaming unfiltered, because that's the goal at the end of the day. But tonight, you all, as promised, our conversation continues, as I stated in this second episode of the Love Talk series, as we'll be talking about the elements of love. Yeah, last week, as we were talking about love talk in particular, we were talking about how you go about communicating love, right? How do we, because some of us, either us or people that we know, some kind of way, they tend to struggle with communicating how they love, right? Sometimes they're trying to show you that they love you, but yet they're doing everything the wrong way. I gave an example of, I don't eat red meat and pork, but then somebody say that they made a beef smorgasbord, right? Trying to show their love for me. Well, that wouldn't do anything for me, because while I appreciate the thought, real talk, you really didn't think about me too much, if because I don't eat red meat, right? So that's what last week's episode was dealing with, how we go about communicating our love. But tonight, you all, we're talking about the elements of love. And let me be clear. We're discussing the elements. Hear me and hear me well. We're not discussing my opinion. I'm not even discussing your opinion. What we're discussing are the elements that God describes as love. Because at the end of the day, God, who is the author and the finisher of our faith, right? God, who is the creator of everything, right? He's the creator of heaven and earth. Like there is nothing that is created that wasn't created by God. So if as we talk about what is love, and we talk about what are all of the ingredients, what are all the elements, right, that makes up love, it's only right that we go to the source, which is God. So let me be clear. I'm not asking you what you thought. Now, what you thought is fine. Guess what? Even what I think is fine, because we all have an opinion. But we ain't talking about our opinions. We're talking about the facts of what God says are the elements of love, or the things or the ingredients that make for a healthy love. So let's just jump right in. Y'all ready? So last week, I started the episode off asking, how well does your love talk? And I started off asking that question because while all of us desire to be loved by somebody, right? And it's not all about romance, right? Even, whether it's a love like family member or friend, all of us desire to just simply feel love. But one of the harsh realities, you all, that I've come to realize is that a lot of us, we struggle, or have struggled, as I stated, with effectively communicating or expressing our love for others. And the issue is not that we may not love somebody, but the issue is that we may not know how to communicate it in a way that they receive it, or that they recognize as is us showing or expressing our love. And when I look further into why we struggle, I realized that struggle was either because we didn't have the vocabulary needed to properly communicate, or we had an unhealthy vision of what love is. And that's why we're having this conversation about what are the elements of love as defined by God. That's also why I mentioned it last episode, and that's where we're picking up at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8, because that's where God gives a full description of the elements that make for healthy love. What's up, Tano? And I don't know about y'all. I think this is a good conversation to have, because the only kind of love that I want is that God kind of love. Why? Because if it's a God kind of love, that means that's the kind of love that's going to last. And so, again, to make sure that we all understand what God says, not me, Not you, not your sister, not your brother, not your homegirl, not your uncle, your auntie, none of them. To make sure that we all understand what God says are the elements of a healthy love. We're going to spend the rest of this episode breaking down the verses of 1 Corinthians 13, chapter 13, verses 4 through 8, in a little more detail. Is that all right with y'all? What's up, Josh? If you have a Bible on your phone, I ain't saying that you got to get deep, but that because that's what I'm the type of person where I don't want you to take my word for it, right? I'm going to read what it says, but I don't want you to take my word for it. I might misconstrue something, I might misread something. I want you to be able to read it for yourself. If you got your Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. Now I'm gonna read the same scriptures in two different versions. I'm going to read one in the NIV, which is the New International Version, and I'm going to read it again in the New Living Translation. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm doing two things. I want to highlight or show the difference in when the King James Version can sometimes be confusing. I'm being honest, right? And so the NIV breaks it down or says it in regular everyday people language, right? But then I want to read the New Living Translation just so you can see the difference in how one of them maybe breaks certain aspects down a little bit more just to help us to really understand what those texts or those scriptures might be saying. So I'm gonna read the NIV first. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. In the NIV, it says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And then it ends in verse 8 saying, love never fails. Now that's the New International Version. I'm going to read the very same thing in the New Living Translation, then we're just going to jump right in. It starts out the same. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. See how it breaks it down a little bit more. So even if you really was unsure about what some of those words mean, it just breaks it down a little bit more. Let me go back. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice, watch this, about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith. It is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. That's the New Living Translation. But I'm going to jump right into verse 4. Verse 4 tells us in either translation, it tells us that love is patient and kind. Meaning, if someone says they love you, or if you say that you love someone, let's get this out the gate first thing first. Neither you or them should have a problem with being patient or kind towards the people you say you love. I don't care what your personality is, right? If you say you love someone, one of the fruits of your love should be patience. Not to mention, it shouldn't be a problem with you being kind. It should be your desire to extend patience and be patient and extend grace if you really love them. And whenever you're around them, whenever you think of them, right? It should bring you joy because it's to the point that you desire to simply be kind to them. Meaning you want to be nice to them. So what does that mean? Let me say it the opposite way. If somebody says they love you, but they're always impatient, is it possible that they struggle with patience? Yes. But if they're impatient to the point that it causes issues, it causes drama, that might not be love. Guess what? If if you if you are the person whose patience runs low with somebody that you say you love, you might not really love them. You might just really like them. And hear me, there's nothing wrong with really liking someone. But let's be clear. There's a difference between like or a strong like and loving somebody. Because when you love somebody, you should be kind. You should be patient with them. But if you're short tempered, well, that's just how I am. Well, guess what? That means you're an unloving person. Well, that's just how they are. You can make excuses, but that just further shows me they don't have all of the elements of love. And we just starting. Those are basic elements. Love is patient. You're patient with the people that you say you love. You're kind. That means you're nice to the people you say you love. How you gonna be mean and surly with the people you say you love? That ain't love. That's just a strong like. Hear me, you all. This is not my words. This is what the Bible says. But then watch this. Verse 4 then keeps going. And it reminds us that not only is love patient and is kind, it says love is not jealous or boastful or proud. Meaning, if someone says they love you, or you say you love somebody, neither of you all should be envious of the people you say you love. You shouldn't be jealous of the people you say you love. You shouldn't be in competition or feel like you're in competition. Oh, I can't compare. I can't compete with them. You're not competing with the people you say you love. But on top of that, because how do you know whether or not you're in competition? When your pride kicks in because you can't do something that they can do, right? Because they accomplished something or achieved something that you were not able to accomplish, that you want to accomplish, right? Your pride and your ego kicks in. Oh, according to the Bible, if you're prideful, if you're struggling with pride, you might not love them. You might just like them, but you may not love them. Or they may not love you. Because love is not boastful and it's not jealous. I remember years ago, there was a young lady who asked me about marriage. She said, what's your opinion of marriage? Or I forgot the exact word she used, but she was asking me if I had to sum it up, like how would I sum it up? And I said, marriage is the most unselfish thing you can ever do. Because why? Because love, when you love somebody, it causes you not to be prideful, it causes you not to be jealous, meaning you love them so much that you want the best for them, that you're willing to put them before. Now, I'm not saying neglect yourself, but you love them so much that you're willing to compromise, or I'm not going to say compromise, you're willing to sacrifice when it counts for the people you say you love. But guess what? If you're prideful, if you're jealous or envious, if you're always boasting, now there's a difference between having a healthy pride about yourself. You know, I'm proud about what God is doing in my life and what is God is doing. But when it gets to the point where you're boasting, you're boastful, right? We all adults. I'm not. We ain't about to play these games. We know the difference between someone boasting and someone being blessed, and they're bragging on God and what God has done, right? Love is not boastful. You're not bragging about yourself so that you can puff yourself up or big yourself up. It's the complete opposite. You're unselfish. And that's what I told her. If anybody who's going to consider getting married, you need to understand it is the most unselfish thing you can prepare for, because love is going to sacrifice for them. Love is going to think about what makes them happy. Now, I'm not saying be a fool, but love is willing to sacrifice for the people that you love. Look at verse 5. Verse 5 told us love does not dishonor others. Again, it says it is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. Come on, somebody. You angry at breakfast? You angry at hello? You angry at can I get a hug? Well, that's just because I'm not that type of person. But you angry though. If you if you're angry, you may not love that person. And guess what? If you're one of those people where that's a part of your character, that's a part of your natural being, you got some work to do. You might not need to be love trying to love on nobody. Because you watch this, you can't give what you don't have. And if you don't have love for yourself down within you, you definitely can't give it away. So if you find yourself always angry, you might have some more digging to do. You got some other work to do. Because even in your attempt to maybe try to express love, it's going to come off hurtful or because you're angry. But verse 5 says it's not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Going back to that patient thing. If you're easily angered with people that you say you love, you may not love them. If there's someone that tells you all the time how much they love you, but they're easily angered by every little thing, any little thing, that's not love, y'all. It goes on, verse 5, and says, it keeps no record of wrongs. Woo. Why? The Bible says that in another verse, another scripture, it says love covers a multitude of sins. Why does it say that? Because love covers even when they do you wrong. Again, I'm not talking about being gullible, right? I'm not talking about letting somebody play you like a fool. But I'm saying when this is something that you know in you, that you know that God has placed in you, right? That the love that we're talking about now, we're only talking about you, right? We can't speak for them, but you should be able to identify what the elements of love are. That's why we're having this conversation, because I believe that for a lot of us, you all, the issue is that when we say we love somebody, or when someone says that they love us, what's the criteria that we're looking for to determine whether or not what they say when they say they love us, if they really love us or not? Or vice versa. When we say we love somebody, what's the criteria that we're displaying, that we're showing, that lets people know that we love them? And I believe that there's a lot of people who've had their heart broken because somebody said the words "I love you," but in the words of Music Soul Child, so many people use that name love in vain. Because watch this, verse 5 said, "Love keeps no record of wrong." But I got to back up because I don't want to skip over something. Verse 5 started out saying, love does not dishonor others and it is not self-seeking. Meaning, if you say that you love somebody or someone says they love you, neither of us should be intentionally doing anything that would bring shame or disgrace to the people we say we love. I need you to hear me. When we say we love somebody, that means we should not intentionally be doing anything that would bring them shame or disgrace. Why? Because we're not trying to dishonor them. And watch this, if we're not trying to dishonor them, that means we have to be intentional about the things that we do. That means we have to be intentional about the choices we make. That means we have to be intentional about the decisions that we make. Why? Because the things that we do, the choices we make, has an effect on the people we say we love. And if we're constantly doing the same thing over and over again, if that person is doing the same thing over and over again, that brings shame, that brings dishonor, that brings disgrace. That's not love, y'all. That I'm not gonna say what it is, because whatever it is, it's not love, according to what God says. It also says again that love does not become easily angered by the people that we say we love. If hearing a voice irritates you, when they wake up in the morning, oh, you still here? What? Like, if you're easily angered, and I'm yes, maybe they did something that bothered you, maybe they did something that offended you, but guess what? Even in the midst of them doing something that bothered you, annoyed you, irritated you, if you're still easily angered, that ain't love. That's something else. And I believe you all, so many of us have been tricked, right, by the words and people using the words, I love you, right? And because in the beginning of any situation, things seem hunky dory and we having a good time. And guess what? That even goes for friendships, right? You meet somebody, it seems like they got a good spirit about them, and y'all seem to click or whatever. And now y'all kicking it, but then down the line you realize something ain't right. It's something about the way that they handle things, the way that they do things. And then their presence just annoys you, irritates you, angers you. That ain't love. I just got to put it out there, you all, because part of what some of us have been dealing with is this misconception or the fake perception of what love is. A lot of us had it all wrong. The Bible says we should not be easily angered by the people we say we love. And then it goes on to say, love doesn't even keep track of how many times they've done wrong. And again, now hear me. I'm not saying if him or her, whoever your friend is, whoever your significant other is, whoever that family member is, I'm not saying be a fool, right? When it says keeps no record of wrong, meaning you're not holding it against them the fact that they made a mistake, that they did something wrong that wronged you, right? But again, we're talking about if it's something that where they made a mistake. When they keep doing something intentionally over and over again, that's not a mistake. They're making a choice. You have to be able to discern the difference. Whether what they're the actions and the choices that they're making, is it because they're just simply being unwise, right? If every time he go out to have a drink with the fellas, he end up cheating, but yet he keep going out with the fellas and he keep drinking, he's making a choice. That's not a mistake, because he knew that the reality was when I go hang with the fellas and I get drunk, I'm tempted to do X, Y, and Z, and I haven't been able to pass that test. Same thing for the ladies. She go out with her girls, and she keep making the same mistake over and over again. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. But because we want to hold on, and yes, we should be hopeful, right? Yes, we should be prayerful and using discernment and use, but what God also gave us wisdom. There's a difference when someone is sincerely trying to do something and they just simply fall short. That's not the same thing. So I'm not keeping a track record of every time you mess up doing something where you did something that may have wronged me. However, if you keep doing the exact same thing over and over again, that shows me that you're not even being intentional about your actions. Because if you know this is the result, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, by definition, that's called insanity. And I don't want no parts of insanity. I don't know about you, but I don't have no time for insanity. That's you making excuses. So it's not me keeping track of the things you've done wrong, but I'm noticing the pattern. And the pattern is you lack wisdom, you lack discipline, you lack intentionality. So I then have to make a decision to kind of move around or to just sever ties with you, whatever type of relationship that is. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. Verse 6, verse 6. Verse 6 told us that love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth, meaning neither you or them should get excited or get happy when something bad happens to them. If you say you love them, right? Oh, somebody cheated on you, right? One of your friends did something to you that you know, and I'm saying from a friend standpoint, just a friend that you love. They did something that wronged you at some point in time, and guess what? However, God decided, you can call it karma, call it whatever you want to call it. They reap what they sowed. You shouldn't be happy about that. Because guess what? If you're happy about the fact that they reap what they sowed, that's not love. Or vice versa. If they're happy that you reaped what you sowed from messing up or doing something wrong, that's not love. That's being spiteful. That's tit for tat, right? They're happy that you felt how you made them feel. That's not love. And there's so many of us, you all, that have been caught up in relationships, friendships, familial relationships where people continue to do and say and things that kept us trapped because we wanted to believe the words, but we wasn't looking at what are the elements that they call love. Maybe it's you, because guess what? It's not always them. Maybe the elements that you were thinking are love. Maybe what we're talking about, maybe you're the one. If every time you look up, you got new friends. If every time you look up, you got to remove yourself from a situation, it could be you. Maybe you the one that don't know how to love. Maybe you the one that don't have some of the elements that we're talking about. Maybe you the one that's mean and surly at breakfast. I mean, I'm being honest. Like, how you got an attitude in the morning eating Fruit Loops? I mean, real talk. We just talked about it at the very beginning. Anytime God wakes you up, you should be grateful. I'm not saying that everything is perfect in your life. No. Some things there may be struggles. There may be rock. You may be between a rock and a hard place. But if God woke you up, that means He ain't through. You got something to be happy about. You got something to be grateful about. So if you're the person that we're talking about that delights in something happening, I'm just saying that ain't love. I'm just calling it like it is, y'all. Again, and this is not my interpretation, or this is not my words or what I think or my definition. I'm just simply breaking down what the text is telling us. These are the elements that God describes as love. Let me get to verse 7 because we got to get out of here. Verse 7 tells us that love always protects. That means even when y'all mad at each other, whether it's a friend, whether it's family, right, or a significant other, love always protects. It always hopes. It always perseveres. Meaning, if someone says they love you, what's going on? If everyone says they love you, if someone says they love you, or you say you love somebody, you should always have a desire to protect them, to keep them safe, right? You don't want no harm coming to them, whether it's by somebody else or by you. But if you do, if you okay with it, if you're the one bringing harm, that ain't love. Well, I just got anger issues. Yeah, you might have more anger than you got love. That's the point that I'm making. That is not love, because love, according to the Bible, it always protects. But then he goes on and says that same love always causes us to be hopeful. Meaning, and it said we always trust. Meaning, I know that old boy did you wrong. As a matter of fact, let's go beyond that. I know the last couple of dudes that you was messing with, they did you wrong. Oh, I loved it him, and they said they loved it me. But now you can't stand him, and now you meet somebody else new, and now you don't trust him. But yet you saying I love you. I think I might love him. I need you to see. That might not be love. I need y'all to hear me. The whole purpose of this is for us to understand what God says healthy love is. That's why we've been doing the work all season, trying to dig up our unhealthy foundations. Because a lot of us got a lot of baggage and a lot of excess stuff, toxins and stuff in our foundation. So when somebody else comes along, and watch this, someone else may come along and really love you, but you don't trust them. But you say, I love you. Or you try to express love, but you still struggle with trusting someone of the opposite sex. I'm just saying, that's not love. Again, that's not my definition. What's up, Missy? The Bible says that's not love, because the Bible says love always trusts. It's always hopeful, right? If you're, guess what? You might be one of those people who you carry the spirit of offense, right? Which means you're offended by everything, by anything. And here's the issue. If you carry the spirit of offense, you need to deal with that first, because that means you're still struggling with trusting people. That means you're still struggling. Watch this, with hoping or believing that what they're saying is telling you the truth. I'll never forget that. I'm just using the scenario as an example. I remember years ago when I think I was a teenager, and I remember my father asked me. It was a situation he didn't know. He was asking me where I was, and I told him where I was. And now I told him exactly where I was and what I did, but he didn't believe me. And he was like, "No, that ain't where you was at." And I felt some type of way, because I'm like, what does that mean about me? Right? Like, you think that you got the type of, now I could see if I was the type of son who was a problem kid or whatever the case is, but I was always been the type of kid. I'm not a perfect kid, but I've always been honest. And you asked me a question, and I told you exactly where I was, but because you didn't believe it, because you felt like, nah, you got to be covering for something else, you didn't believe me, and I was telling you the truth. Well, that's because his experience, whether it was with one of my other siblings or someone he knew, one of his friends or whatever, I'm telling him the truth, but he couldn't accept that what I was telling him was the truth. And that bothered me to my core because I'm like, what does that say about what you think about me? The fact that I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe it, you rather believe something else that you made up in your head about me, and I'm telling you the truth. Guess what? Present day, I would say that's probably not love, y'all. Because love is always hopeful. Again, not my words, that's what the text said. It always hopes. But then it goes on and it says that love always perseveres. What does that mean, persevere? That means even when times get rough, when times get tough, if whoever you dealing with, significant other, friend, family member, if when times get tough, all they do is run, well, that's their pattern, that's their habit. Yes, everybody has bad habits and things they need to break. But guess what? That also shows you they really could either they don't know what love is, or they're just not at the place where they're able to love you or capable of loving you. I'm trying not to get too deep in it because that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Capacity to love. Because with all of the elements that we're talking about, you all, I got to be honest, and I got to be honest with you. Everybody does not have the ability or capacity to handle, manage, operate within all of these elements. Whew. And that's why we're having this discussion. Because sometimes there are people, because again, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot teach what you don't know. Now I'm saying it that way, but that includes me too. I can't teach what I don't know. If I don't know calculus, I can't teach you if you need help. If you don't know trigonometry, you can't teach me if I need help. And it's the same thing. If I need love in a certain kind of way, but you don't speak that language, you don't understand that, you can't give it to me. And part of the thing, oh Lord help me, I don't want to jump into next week, but part of the issue with a lot of people is, again, it's a capacity thing. That's why I'm talking about us. That's why all season I've been talking about doing the work so that we can dig up that foundation and have a healthy foundation. Because the reality is, God may have sent somebody to love you, but you didn't have the capacity to love them back the way that they needed. But yet some of us, we got connected or attached or to people because we believe the words that they were saying. Can I tell y'all a secret? You ain't got to be worried about nothing when it's good times. You only have to be concerned when the bad times come. When bad times come, that's when you see the real person. And that's when you begin to see, how do they handle pressure? How do they handle tough things in life? Right? Do they just quit? Do they run? Do they just act like stuff don't exist? Or as verse 7 said, or do they persevere? Perseveres mean you find a way to work through it. You find a way to get through the tough times. You find a way to get through those difficult circumstances. Now, let me be clear. Sometimes that perseverance or getting through those tough times may mean adding tools that you don't have. Maybe it means looking in a mirror and being honest with yourself about the fact, you know what? I don't know anything about love languages. Guess what? A lot of what we're talking about, these elements, I realize I don't have that. Or maybe I don't have the capacity for that yet. What is it that I need to do so that I can increase my capacity? Right? But verse 7 ended, it always perseveres. But lastly, verse 8, and we about to wrap this thing up. Verse 8 ended reminding us that love never fails. Meaning, if what we call love, whoever says they love you, if whatever they think is love, if it encompasses all of the elements we just talked about, there's no way that it could fail. But usually, the reason that what we think is love or what someone is calling love, the reason that it fails is because they don't have all of the elements that God says makes up healthy love. Hmm. Too many people running around here with their own interpretation of what love is. Too many people running around here because they were handed down visions of love from Mariah Carey. I had a vision of love, right? You get visions of love from everybody else except the person who created love, which is God. Because according to God, love never fails. So if you have all of these elements in what you call love, there's no way it can fail. So if, hear me out, if there was a love situation, whether it was a friend, love of a family member, love of a friend, love of a significant other, if it failed, that's because one of y'all didn't have all of them elements. Or, which is what we're going to talk about next week, I, or somebody didn't have the capacity. Meaning, if I have a, what is this, a 16 ounce or 20 ounce cup, if I got a 64-ounce gallon of tea or something and I try to pour it in here, guess what's going to happen? The other 44 ounces is going to spill all out on the ground and be wasted because the capacity for this is only 20 ounces. So guess what? If somebody's trying to pour all of those elements into something that doesn't have the capacity, it's not going to work. Something is going to get dropped. Something is going to go by the wayside. And so many of us either have tried to pour what we call love into something or someone that either did not know or understand what the elements of love were, or they didn't have the capacity to hold what we were pouring. I'm a realist. Or maybe it was you. Maybe you were not able to handle what was being poured because your capacity was limited. Or maybe because your understanding or knowledge was limited. That's why I said we can't teach what we don't know. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. But it is our responsibility to learn better so that we can do better. I hope, listen, y'all, that's all I got for y'all on tonight. I hope this conversation blessed somebody. We got another episode next week, episode 3 of the Love Talk series. But listen, as always, I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next Friday Night Live as we continue the conversation or as we be talking about or continue this conversation on capacity to love. Well, listen, until next week, y'all. I need y'all to remember dreams plant the seeds for the future, and your future is definitely bright. I love y'all. I got to get up out of here. Nothing you can do about it. Until next week, peace out.